Two lads, William and Andrew, are playing truant from school. They spent the morning lurking around the railway sidings until a workman told them to clear off. They loitered around the town centre, avoiding policemen and panda cars. They pulled what little money they had and shared a bacon bap from one of those cheap cafes that caters mostly for taxi drivers, claiming they had a dental appointment when quizzed about not being in school. Later in the morning, they loiter at a bus stop and wonder what to do for the rest of the day. A lady who lives nearby notices them from an upstairs window. 20 minutes later they're still there, and after half an hour, she's deduced that they're not waiting for a bus since 3 have gone past now. Knowing that they probably should be somewhere else, she dons her overcoat, exits her home and approaches them. She loiters as if waiting for a bus for a few moments before breaking the ice. "No school today, boys." It's lunchtime," William claims. "It's barely 11 a.m, she retorts. The boiler broke, we all got sent home." Andrew lies. "I see. So why aren't you both at home?" she asked. Between them, the two boys delivered a string of excuses, each contradicting the last. They knew that they were playing truant from school and eventually admitted it, claiming the school's boring and they'd rather knock about doing nothing instead. "Well, that doesn't sound like much fun," she says. "S all right." Andrew shrugged. "School's not much fun either," he added. "Aren't you worried that a truant officer or policeman might see you?" she asked. "You are both in school uniform after all." "How's about using your time more wisely?" she says. "I've got a couple of jobs that need doing in my garden, and if you two did them for me, you'd be off the streets and out of trouble for the rest of the day." "How much you gonna pay us, missus?" "Well, if you do a good job, £1 each," she said. Their eyes lit up. "And I'll make you some sandwiches for lunch." "What kind of jobs?" William cautiously asked. "There's an old gazebo that needs breaking up and burning," she tells them. "And the autumn leaves need raking from the lawn and burning too, and my garden pond needs clearing," she added. The boys agree. They get to smash up a gazebo, light a fire and get paid for it. "This way," she says. "Aren't you waiting for a bus?" they asked. "No. I live just over here," she said, heading towards a detached Victorian house. "Why were you waiting at the bus stop then?" "I noticed you loitering, knew you were skipping school and decided to offer you something better to do with your spare time," she replied, opening the gate and leading them around the side of her house. The wonky old gazebo stood precariously by a small muddy pond. An area beyond it has been used for fires in the past, and the boys waste no time kicking the flimsy structure to pieces. The lady fetches them a can of pop each and asks how they're getting on. They're clearly enjoying themselves. She lights a small fire and begins piling the former gazebo on it. She advises the boys to feed the fire gradually, and that all the fallen leaves from the lawn need piling on, but not so many to smother the fire. She gives them rakes and tells them that the pond needs clearing too, which is littered with rotten twigs, mulch and half-dead weeds. So far as garden ponds go, it's not a very good one. It's little more than big muddy puddle, but if you look closely enough, there is a small brick wall surrounding it. With a belly full of fizzy pop, an exciting fire to tend, a lawn to rake and a pond to dredge, the boys approached their tasks with a giddy enthusiasm. They didn't care if their school uniforms took on the scent of the wood smoke or got spattered with mud or slime as they pulled the broken bits of branches from its shallow stagnant murk. In fact, they deliberately splashed one another, and as only boys do, they turned a simple task into a silly competitive and overtly boisterous display. Unbeknown to them, the lady watched from the window. It was only a matter of time before one of them slipped or tripped. Two lads, William and Andrew, are playing truant from school. They spent the morning lurking around the railway sidings until a workman told them to clear off. They loitered around the town centre, avoiding policemen and panda cars. They pooled what little money they had and shared a bacon bap from one of those cheap cafes that caters mostly for taxi drivers, claiming they had a dental appointment when quizzed about not being in school. Later in the morning, they loiter at a bus stop and wonder what to do for the rest of the day. A lady who lives nearby notices them from an upstairs window. 20 minutes later they're still there, and after half an hour, she's deduced that they're not waiting for a bus since 3 have gone past now. Knowing that they probably should be somewhere else, she dons her overcoat, exits her home and approaches them. She loiters as if waiting for a bus for a few moments before breaking the ice. "No school today, boys." It's lunchtime," William claims. "It's barely 11 a.m., she retorts. The boiler broke, we all got sent home." Andrew lies. "I see. So why aren't you both at home?" she asked. Between them, the two boys delivered a string of excuses, each contradicting the last. They knew that they were playing truant from school and eventually admitted it, claiming the school's boring and they'd rather knock about doing nothing instead. "Well, that doesn't sound like much fun," she says. "S all right." Andrew shrugged. "School's not much fun either," he added. "Aren't you worried that a truant officer or policeman might see you?" she asked. "You are both in school uniform after all." How's about using your time more wisely?" she says. "I've got a couple of jobs that need doing in my garden, and if you two did them for me, you'd be off the streets and out of trouble for the rest of the day." "How much you gonna pay us, missus?" "Well, if you do a good job, £1 each," she said. Their eyes lit up. "And I'll make you some sandwiches for lunch." "What kind of jobs?" William cautiously asked. "There's an old gazebo that needs breaking up and burning," she tells them. "And the autumn leaves need raking from the lawn and burning too, and my garden pond needs clearing," she added. The boys agree. They get to smash up a gazebo, light a fire and get paid for it. "This way," she says. "Aren't you waiting for a bus?" they asked. "No. I live just over here," she said, heading towards a detached Victorian house. "Why were you waiting at the bus stop then?" "I noticed you loitering, knew you were skipping school and decided to offer you something better to do with your spare time," she replied, opening the gate and leading them around the side of her house. The wonky old gazebo stood precariously by a small muddy pond. An area beyond it has been used for fires in the past, and the boys waste no time kicking the flimsy structure to pieces. The lady fetches them a can of pop each and asks how they're getting on. They're clearly enjoying themselves. She lights a small fire and begins piling the former gazebo on it. She advises the boys to feed the fire gradually, and that all the fallen leaves from the lawn need piling on, but not so many to smother the fire. She gives them rakes and tells them that the pond needs clearing too, which is littered with rotten twigs, mulch and half-dead weeds. So far as garden ponds go, it's not a very good one. It's little more than big muddy puddle, but if you look closely enough, there is a small brick wall surrounding it. With a belly full of fizzy pop, an exciting fire to tend, a lawn to rake and a pond to dredge, the boys approached their tasks with a giddy enthusiasm. They didn't care if their school uniforms took on the scent of the wood smoke or got spattered with mud or slime as they pulled the broken bits of branches from its shallow stagnant murk. In fact, they deliberately splashed one another, and as only boys do, they turned a simple task into a silly competitive and overtly boisterous display. Unbeknown to them, the lady watched from the window. It was only a matter of time before one of them slipped or tripped. "Having fun, boys?" she asked when she fetched them a second can of pop each, along with a tray of sandwiches and some crisps. "Yeah," they replied in unison. "Ah," she said as they reached to grab a sandwich. "Go and wash your hands first. The kitchen's just there," she added, pointing out the open back door to her home. She set the tray down on a cast-iron garden table and followed them inside. For one, she wanted to make sure they used soap rather than just rinsing their muddy hands with tap water. And aside from that, she wanted to make sure they ventured no further inside her home than the kitchen. She feels no sense of threat from these two Truants, but that's not the same as trusting them. With their hands washed, she sends them back outside before sighing at the muddy footprints on the lino. I should have known, she grumbles, blaming herself more than anyone else. The boys tuck into the sandwiches and slurp their pop. She's okay, that woman. Yeah. She better pay us though. She will. My mum's gonna go bonkers when she sees the state of my uniform. Mine too. Andrew said. I stink of wood smoke too, he added, sniffing his collar. After gobbling their sandwiches, munching their crisps and draining the cans of every last drop of sweet fizzy pop, the boys continued feeding the fire with leaves, bits of the old gazebo and stinky sodden bits of wood and gunk from the pond. The smoke was thick and steamy. The fire reduced to a smolder, and when the lady came to collect their empty tray and cans, they suggested pouring some petrol or paraffin on the fire to get it going again. Oh my word, no. That's far too dangerous, she says, before complimenting their hard work so far. Since the fire's all but done for, she suggests they clear the rest of the debris from the pond, dump it by the fire pit where it'll eventually dry out, then after getting cleaned up, it would be more or less home time and therefore a good time to go. You're still gonna pay us, aren't you, Mrs.? William asked. Of course. You've done well. Keep up the good work, and try not to get too muddy, she said, looking them up and down. Their shoes are covered in the stuff. Spatters and splats pepper their trousers. There's pond gunk on their sleeves and even in their hair. Bit too late for that. Andrew retorts. My mum's gonna go bananas. Well, I'll try to get you both cleaned up as best I can, she replied. An hour or so passed. The boys had cleared the remaining debris from the pond, the gazebo was all but burnt and the lawn is clear of leaves. Having finished their task, the boys approached the house and knocked on the back door. Have you finished, boys? The lady said. Yeah. They replied in unison. After checking, she pushed 2 50-pence pieces into their hands. Now put that in your pockets and we'll get you cleaned up, she said. Shoes off before you come inside, she insisted. I'm not going to make that mistake again. Yeah. Sorry about that, William said as he untied his laces. He knew full well that he'd mudded her floor when he washed his hands, but wasn't really bothered enough to do anything to prevent it. What's your name, Mrs.? Andrew asked as he kicked off his shoes. Well, it won't exactly a clean job, Andrew replied, almost as if in protest. Well, I'll run you both a bath. Come on. Upstairs. I only need to wash my hands and face, William stated. And what about your clothes? Mrs. Arkwright asked. You did say your mother wouldn't be happy. She told the boys that whilst they're in the bath, she'll quickly clean the mud and gunk from their trousers, jumpers, and blazers. They'll take an hour to dry, and you can tell your mothers that you were at an after-school club if you're late home, she suggested. Wearing only their underpants and vests, the two boys went up to her bathroom where a tub full of warm water, topped with foamy white bubbles, waited for them. Mrs. Arkwright followed. Me first, Andrew blurted as he bounded into the bathroom, pushing the door shut behind him. Oi, he yelped as the door opened whilst he was stepping out of his underpants. You've got nothing we haven't seen before, Mrs. Arkwright replied as she marched William into the bathroom. In you get, she said. Andrew quickly sunk himself under the bubbles. You too, William. I'm not getting in with him, William retorted. There's plenty of room for two. Now come on. It'll be a lot easier for me to clean you up if you're both in the bath, she said. Everyone's got a teacher or an aunt, a family friend or neighbor maybe who has a strong presence about her. The sort you know not to cross. The sort who commands respect simply by the way she stands, proud and confident, and they weigh the speak with authority and determination. Mrs. Arkwright is just this sort of woman, and much against his better judgment, William removes his underwear and sheepishly steps into the bath alongside his friend for fear of experiencing her wrath. Both boys are embarrassed beyond belief when the forthright woman begins to scrub and sponge their hands, arms, shoulders, and faces. Both protest that they can wash themselves, but she wants it done properly, reminding them that they stink of both wood smoke and pond gunk. "That smells like perfume," William whined as she appended a bottle of something into the bath before proceeding to rinse and wash their hair. "Oh, stop whining, boy. It is perfume. You can't go home stinking of wood smoke, can you?" Mrs. Arkwright retorted. "Your mothers would know you'd skipped school." The boys figure that she has a point, and after being scrubbed and rinsed, she gives them a hand towel each with which to dry themselves. She scoops up their underwear before leaving them. "I'll be in the bedroom opposite. Come in when you've dried yourselves off." The boys dry their bodies and hair. Andrew sniffs his forearm and inhales the sweet fragrance. "I think I preferred smelling of wood smoke," he moaned. William, having just dried his hair, puts his face into the towel and also grumbles at the scent he detects. Surely she didn't have to pour the whole bottle in. Andrew frowned as he wrapped the small hand towel around his waist. "You done?" he asked William. "Yeah." William nodded. "These towels could be a bit bigger," he said, holding it around his waist before they headed to the bedroom opposite. "All dry, boys?" she asked as they entered. They nodded in unison. "I've found you both something to wear whilst your clothes are being washed," she says, gesturing toward the bed. "They're girls' clothes." Andrew gulped. "Well, I'm afraid I'm a bit short of boys' clothes," she replied. "I have a niece about your age who visits occasionally. So you'll have to make do with hers." "I'm not wearing a dress," William stated. He's clearly exasperated that she even suggesting such a thing. Andrew was in much the same frame of mind. "It's only for an hour," she told them. "No one will see you and no one need know. And I can't have you waiting in the nude whilst I deal with your muddy clothes, can I?" With great reluctance, the boys dress in the clothes she'd chosen for them. "You better not say anything to anyone about this," Andrew threatened as he stepped into a pair of very frilly knickers. "I won't," William stated, as if that should have been obvious. "As if I would," he added after pulling on a lace-trimmed vest and looking down at himself. "I think the buttons go up the back," Andrew advised as William sheepishly stepped into his dress. "How are you supposed to fasten them if they go at the back?" William quizzed. Andrew's dress is of a similar style. "We'll have to do each other's," he mournfully suggested. William hung his head in shame as he experienced the humiliation of being buttoned into a dress by none other than his best friend. Once done, Andrew turned so William could fasten the buttons on his dress. Mrs. Arkwright returned. "I was just coming to see if you needed any help with the buttons," she said before looking them up and down and saying they don't look too bad. "They look awful," Andrew protested as he continued fastening William's buttons. "Only girls wear dresses," he claimed in a most whiny voice. "Not until your clothes have washed and dried," Mrs. Arkwright said in a chirpy tone. Once they'd buttoned each other into their frocks and donned a pair of girls' knee socks, they returned downstairs and sat sheepishly in her lounge. "What's that noise?" William asked as something began to loudly rumble. "It's the washing machine," Mrs. Arkwright proudly replied, before telling them that it's fully automatic, lots easier and far quicker than a twin tub. "You just throw dirty clothes in and clean ones come out," she said. "It's a godsend." Being boys, they've no idea what toil and turmoil cleaning clothes can be and thus are unimpressed by the so-called godsend that is a fully automatic washing machine. "Does it dry them too?" Andrew asked. "No. But I've put the heating on. They'll dry over the radiators in no time," she told them. "Now, would you like some cake whilst we wait?" Shyly, the boys said yes. Each added a please. She left them alone whilst she fetched it. "This is weird," William whispered, biting his lip. I know. Andrew gulped. Surely her niece has got some boyish clothes. What's that? Mrs. Arkwright asked as she returned carrying a tray. Andrew reiterated his comment, and after setting the tray on the coffee table, Mrs. Arkwright told him that she doesn't like boyish clothes for girls. I'm rather old-fashioned in that respect. I don't think boys your age should be in long trousers either. When I was a girl, boys only wore long pants once they'd left school. I hate short pants. William grumbled. Well, it's a good job I chose dresses, isn't it? Mrs. Arkwright replied as she plunged a knife into a Victoria sponge cake. I'd rather wear shorts than this. Andrew sneered, looking down at the prissy frock he wears. The only good thing he can say about it is that it isn't pink and that it doesn't have any lacy trim or bows attached. But it's still a dress and it does have frills, so in that sense, there's nothing at all good about it. Mrs. Arkwright hands them both a plate on which a thin slice of cake is placed. Thank you, they meekly say in unison. The lady advises them to try not to get any crumbs on their dresses. She watches with a wry smile as they sit quietly in their prissy dresses, plates perched carefully on their laps as they cautiously and slowly eat their cake. Do you boys play truant from school often? She asked. Sometimes. William meekly replied. And how often is sometimes? She asked, adding that today isn't the first time she's noticed them loitering on the side streets when they should be at school. Once or twice a week, I guess. William says. And don't the teachers wonder where you've been? William shrugged and after a little prompting, admitted to turning up for registration, then leaving the school grounds. If they ask, I just tell Em I was ill or summit. You do realize that they probably know that you're lying, she said. Again William shrugged. What if they refer you both to the Education Welfare Services? She asked. If you're skipping school a couple of times a week, it's only a matter of time. Dunno. William replied. Throughout this exchange, both boys hung their heads like guilty 5-year-olds. Have you anything to say, Andrew? She asked. He gulped and shook his head. Well, I hope you'll both have a good long think about things. You only get one chance to go to school. If you waste your education now, you'll regret it in the future. This is something they've been told a million times, but as far as they're concerned, they live in the here and now. School's boring, so why bother going? Homework's boring, so why bother doing it? The only consequence is lines, a detention or a telling off. And such punishments are soon forgotten about. Mrs. Arkwright lectured them in the importance of a good education, but didn't lay the blame on the boys themselves. It's the education system that's failing you, she said. The boys agreed. Mrs. Arkwright would have continued further, but just then, the telephone rang. She excused herself to answer the telephone. Do you reckon she's a retired teacher or summit? William asked. Maybe. Andrew replied. She certainly has that air about her. They sheepishly and briefly discussed how weird it was, being put in the bath together and washed like little kids. Then she returned. I've got a couple of phone calls to make, boys, she said. Would you like another slice of cake cutting? She offered. Yes, please, Mrs. Arkwright. Andrew replied. Yes, please. William said. She smiled and cut the cake, placing a slice on each of their plates. They thanked her. Well, I must say, you've finally found your manners, boys. A please and thank you costs nothing yet means so very much, she said before leaving them alone whilst she made the phone calls. Being put in the bath wasn't anywhere as weird as being given dresses to wear. William said. How long do you reckon it'll take for our clothes to dry? Dunno. Andrew replied. They're not out of the wash yet, so I reckon it'll be ages. William groaned. I reckon her niece will have jeans and stuff. I reckon she put us in dresses deliberately, he supposed. We should have put our foot down and refused to wear them. Well, it's too late now. And we can't exactly go anywhere until we get our own clothes back. Mum's gonna go bonkers when I get home. Even if my clothes are clean and dry, it'll still be too late to claim I went to the art club or chess club or something. Yeah, I was thinking that. Andrew replied. He checked the time and it's 2:45. The school bell will be ringing in about 15 minutes and he should be home not long after that. But a rough estimate of at least an hour before their clothes will be washed and dry enough to wear means he'll have some explaining to do. When Mrs. Arkwright returns, Andrew asks if she's sure that her niece doesn't have any boyish clothes they could wear instead of their dresses. Mrs. Arkwright replies, telling them that she hasn't, and adding that they should be getting used to their dresses by now. That's what I'm afraid of. Andrew grumbled. Have you finished with those plates? She asked. The boys handed them to her and she suggested they stand to sweep any crumbs from their frocks onto the floor. It's easier to hoover the carpet than it is to launder and iron a dress, she says as she gathers the plates and picks up the tray. The boys stand and sheepishly sweep their skirts. Mrs. Arkwright hovers with the tray in hand and reminds them to sit how she'd shown them, sweeping their skirts beneath them first. Good boys, she smiled. Have you ever worn a dress before? Andrew asked. No. William retorted. Why? Just wondered. Andrew replied, before admitting that his big sister used to dress him in girls' clothes when she had to stay in and babysit. Why? William asked. Well, because Mum and Dad had gone out and I couldn't stay on my own. No, I mean, why did your big sister dress you as a girl? Oh, I dunno. She always did though. And she always told me not to tell anyone. Andrew replied. Not that I ever would. Until now. Well, I trust you won't tell anyone. Did you like it? William asked. No. Andrew retorted. But I did sort of get used to it. What are you boys talking about? Mrs. Arkwright asked when she returned. Nothing. Andrew replied. Are our clothes still in the wash? Mrs. Arkwright told them that the automatic washing machine is on its final spin, so it won't be long. Oh, I wonder who that could be, she said when the doorbell rang. Would you mind answering the door, William? I can't. William gulped. Not like this. Typical boy. Either too shy or too lazy to do the simplest of tasks, she said, before answering the door herself. William and Andrew looked at one another and gulped. They couldn't quite hear who was at the door, but knew they were coming in when they heard Mrs. Arkwright say, "They're through here." The boys' jaws hit the floor when their form teacher walked in. Miss Colton, they gasped. Andrew and William, she retorted, echoing their tone. We've been wondering where you two got to today. The boys gulped and hung their heads. They glared at their knees, poking out from their prissy frocks. Well, they didn't get very far. Mrs. Arkwright replied. I've been keeping them busy and out of trouble. I can see. Miss Colton said. Have they been any bother? None whatsoever. Mrs. Arkwright chirped. Eventually, William plucked up the courage to ask, what's she doing here? Well, Mrs. Arkwright began. When you two were in the bath, I rang your school and spoke to your form teacher and explained that I'd found 2 truants. Miss Colton kindly gave me your parents' phone numbers, and they're on their way. But Andrew gulped. The name of the school is emblazoned on their blazers and their full names are written in their name tags. So it wouldn't have taken much detective work to find out who to speak to. You lied to us, he said. Sometimes a white lie is necessary. Mrs. Arkwright replied. Especially when it's for the greater good, she said. The truth is, I don't have a niece. Those dresses you're wearing are for boys like you two. Boys in need of guidance and correction. Boys for whom regular forms of discipline don't seem to work. You tricked us. You should have been at school. Mrs. Arkwright countered, before reminding them that everything they've done today, they've done so willingly. And that includes stepping into your dresses. And very nice they look too. Miss Colton grinned as she perched on a chair facing the two boys. They hung their heads. An aura of utter embarrassment surrounded them. Andrew's dress is cream with subtle stripes running down its fabric. A round Peter Pan collar encircles his neck and short pin-tucked sleeves cover his shoulders. The skirt is trimmed with a 2-inch ruffled hem, from which his knees appear. They look pink and flushed next to his white-ribbed knee socks. William's dress is in a pale spearmint green shade with white trim. It has fake buttons running up the front, through a broad white yoke up to a small pointed collar. Unlike Andrew's pin-tucked sleeves, William's are puffed and gathered and far more girlier. He wouldn't admit it, but given the choice, he'd have preferred Andrew's marginally plainer dress to his. Not that that would have made wearing a dress any better. Mrs. Arkwright fetched a tea tray through and set it down on the coffee table. There's a big teapot, a small jug of milk, 4 cups and saucers and a sugar bowl. She turned the pot and asked Miss Colton if she took milk and sugar. Just milk please, their form teacher replied. Mrs. Arkwright poured the tea and handed it to her, just as the doorbell rang. Perfect timing, she said. She considered sending one of the boys but reckoned it would be easier to answer the door herself. You must be Andrew's mother, she said, loud enough for the boys to hear. I can see the family resemblance, she said as she led the visitor through to the lounge. Andrew couldn't look his mother in the eye. He hung his head whilst she looked him up and down. Mrs. Arkwright told him to stand so his mother could sit. You too, William, she added. The boys sheepishly stood and hovered nervously by the fireplace. To their left sits Mrs. Arkwright. To their right, their form teacher, and sat facing them on the sofa is Andrew's mother, who wears the wryest of smiles. They're lovely dresses, Mrs. Arkwright, she says. How long's it been since you last wore one, Andrew? Andrew gulped and ever so slightly shrugged his shoulders. He's been petticoated previously. Mrs. Arkwright quizzed. Oh yes, but not recently, his mother replied. She told the women a tale about a boisterous 6-year-old boy who was forever playing up whenever his big sister babysat for him. Every Thursday, she and Andrew's father went dancing at the pier, but Andrew would never do as his big sister told him. He'd refuse to go to bed on time, refuse to tidy up his toys, and dispute his sister's authority over him. Then I read an article in Good Housekeeping which advocated petticoating as a means of controlling unruly boys. So from that day forth, whenever his father and I were out, Andrew's sister would make him wear her old dresses and he was much easier to control. Andrew's jaw dropped. So far as he knew, it was all his sister's doing. He had no idea that his mother knew all along that she dressed him up like a girl whenever she had to babysit. This happened at least every fortnight from the age of 6 until he was about 9, when his big sister left school and left home, leaving no one to babysit. He didn't need petticoating when I or his father were in charge. It was only his sister he'd play up with, his mother added. I thought it was all her idea. Andrew grumbled. His mother smiled and shook her head. Andrew gulped. Did Dad know too? He asked. His mother smiled and nodded. Andrew's mind flashed back to those evenings when his parents were going dancing. They'd leave the house, dressed to the nines, Dad in a tuxedo or dinner suit, Mum in a ghastly ball gown, and no sooner they'd gone, he'd be summoned to his sister's room where a dress would be waiting for him. He was too young to fully recall the first time she put him in a dress or how she managed it, but he recalls the fear of anyone knowing and how that was always used as leverage. He doesn't recall ever putting up much of a fight, just wearing what he was given and feeling safe in the knowledge that it would remain a secret. And as he confessed to William earlier, he just got used to it. Now he's 13 and before today, wearing a dress was a dim memory. Have you ever worn a dress before today, William? Andrew's mother asked. William shook his head. Oh well. There's a first time for everything, I suppose, she said in a passive-aggressive tone. Can I pour you a cup of tea? Mrs. Arkwright offered. "Oh yes, 1 sugar please," Andrew's mother replied. "Thank you," she chirped. Being stood by the fireplace, all eyes were on the boys. Mrs. Arkwright told how she'd noticed them loitering by the bus stop and approached them, knowing full well they were skipping school. First they claimed it was lunchtime, but it was barely 11 a.m., she said. Then they claimed the school's boiler had broke and they'd been sent home for the day, she added. It's such a shame when they so quickly resort to telling lies when the truth never hurts anyone. Just then, the doorbell rang. "That'll be your mother, I expect," Mrs. Arkwright said to William as she got up. William was in a mad panic as his mother entered the lounge. He was physically trembling as she looked him up and down. "Look at what you've got yourself into," his mother sighed. "Please, take a seat," Mrs. Arkwright said, before offering her a cup of tea. She tells William's mother the series of events, approaching the boys, asking if they were concerned that a truant officer or policeman might spot them and their apathetic and arrogant response. She explained how she cunningly managed to get the boys out of their clothes and into the bath, and after that, putting them in dresses is easy, she proudly stated. She looked the boys up and down and said, "Better a dress than your birthday suit, eh, boys?" They didn't reply. They couldn't. Their sense of shame was far too great. "So?" William's mother asked. "What now?" "Well," their form teacher began. "We're not sure just how often they've been skipping school, but I know it's got to the point to warrant a suspension," Miss Colton explained. Both Andrew and William's mothers expressed that they'd rather the boys weren't suspended. Truancy aside, Miss Colton continued, "They seldom complete their homework assignments and on the rare occasion they do attend class, they're disobedient and disruptive," she explained. "They've been given lines, detention, a good talking to, but nothing sinks in. I'm sorry to be the one to inform you, but the headmaster is determined to suspend them for a fortnight. I did all I could to stop him from excluding them altogether." Both of the boys' parents were livid with the news, but the boys felt slightly more optimistic. "You mean we don't have to go to school for 2 weeks?" William asked. "You won't be attending Cromwell Road for the next 2 weeks," Miss Colton informed them. "But you will be attending school." "What school?" Andrew asked. "A special school," Miss Colton replied. "The sort of school that'll have you longing to return to Cromwell Road. Think yourselves lucky that you'll only be attending for a fortnight." "Not some of you," William blurted, that being the local school for children with learning difficulties, special needs and disabilities. Miss Colton shakes her head and tells him no. "Where then?" William asked. "It's in the town centre and it's called St. Felicity's," their teacher informed them. "That's a girls' school," Andrew blurted. "Not entirely," Mrs. Arkwright said. "They do accommodate a handful of boys, not that one would notice," she added. "Are you a teacher there or summit?" William asked. "I think the word you meant to use is a something, William," Mrs. Arkwright retorted in a most patronizing tone. "A summit is the top of a mountain," she added, before informing the boys that she's not a teacher anymore, but an education welfare officer, or truant officer if you prefer. The boys gulped in unison. They recalled when she asked if they were worried about being spotted by a truant officer or policeman and figured should that happen, they'd simply leg it. Little did they realize that they were talking to a truant officer. Knowing which school you should have been at was easy, since it's written on your blazers. And your full names are written on your name tags. All it needed was a quick call to your school, and notifying St. Felicity's that I'd have 2 new pupils for them, she explained. "Now all we need to do is to fill out some parental consent forms and your temporary transfer will be finalized," she said, removing some forms from a folder and handing them out to their parents and teacher. "I think 2 weeks at St. Felicity's will do you both the world of good," she smiled. Their parents perused the forms, filled in the relevant details and finally, signed their consent. "So, Where do we go from here? Andrew's mother asked. Home. Mrs. Arkwright replied. They'll attend St. Felicity's at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. A minibus will collect them, and if you could note down their clothing and shoe sizes, then they'll be given a uniform first thing. William's mother had a face like thunder as she picked up her handbag. Are our clothes dry yet? William asked. Mrs. Arkwright, who sat closest to Andrew, put her fingers on the hem of his skirt and said, They're quite dry. Not these. William blurted. Our clothes. In the wash. Oh, your school uniforms. Mrs. Arkwright retorted. You won't be needing those for a couple of weeks, boys, she said, looking them up and down. But you will need some footwear. Do you know your sizes? I've got shoes. Andrew bluntly stated. William said much the same. Mrs. Arkwright patronized them and said that their shoes wouldn't go with their dresses. I'm not going home in this. Andrew claimed. That is not your decision to make, young man. Mrs. Arkwright retorted. She turned to his mother, raised an eyebrow and put the ball in her court. Well, his mother tutted. Shameful as it is, and since your own clothes won't be dry for hours yet, we don't have much choice, she said, before informing Mrs. Arkwright of his shoe size. William's a 5.5. William's mother added. Mrs. Arkwright left the room. Both of the boys audibly followed her footsteps, up the stairs and into the bedroom in which they'd innocently donned their frocks. They gulped as they heard her descend the stairs and were practically crapping themselves when she returned. They were slightly relieved to be given a pair of slip-on PE pumps, just like they used to wear in junior school, only white rather than black. Given the rest of their attire, they feared something far, far girlier. Their mothers stood up, the boys sheepishly sat and pushed their feet into the shoes. They remained seated whilst Mrs. Arkwright informed their mothers of tomorrow's proceedings. The minibus should arrive between 7:30 and 7:45. It doesn't matter what they wear since a uniform will be issued on arrival, but Mrs. Arkwright suggests they wear their dresses. The boys glance at one another. In the most subtle way imaginable, William mouths the words, I'm not going. Andrew gulps. Both cast their eyes up to the adults. Their mothers are being reminded to jot down their sizes, chest, waist and foot, before being advised to get them up early and to give them a bath before breakfast. All the time, William is trying to work out if he can get up and leave his home long before that minibus comes, whilst Andrew is worrying that he'll have to wear a girl's school uniform. Finally, the boys are led out of the house and down the path. Their mothers' cars are parked outside, as is Miss Colton's. The three women chat for a moment, expressing their shame and optimism. Mum, will you open the door? William barks. In a moment, his mother retorted. Andrew just loitered, hanging his head and hoping to God that no one else will see them in their girly knee socks and prissy frocks. Eventually the women bid each other farewell. I'll see you in a couple of weeks, boys. Miss Colton smiled. The boys didn't reply. They were finally allowed to climb into their respective cars and did so in silence. What the bloody hell's going on? William's dad barked when he returned home. William burst into tears and darted into his room where he threw himself upon his bed and cried his heart out. His mother gave him 10 minutes before going up, by which time he'd removed his socks and dress, knickers and vest and had donned his own clothes. She wasn't surprised. You could have hung it up, she said as she did just that. Actually, I'll hang it elsewhere, for safekeeping, she said, before ordering the boy downstairs where his father wanted to talk to him. Sheepishly, he descended the stairs where he was given the 3rd degree. Then he explained what had happened and how he and Andrew ended up being tricked into wearing dresses. He played the victim all the way, calling Mrs. Arkwright a lying bitch and other names. Meanwhile, Andrew is going through more or less the same at his home. His dad is going bonkers, his mum is disappointed and Andrew's been forbidden to remove his dress. We only thought you needed petticoating so you'd be a good boy for your sister, he's told. How wrong we were. If only we'd kept it up, you wouldn't be in this mess. Both were sent to bed early. And both were out of bed early too. Andrew's mother had a bath full of pungent bubbles waiting for him, and just as Mrs. Arkwright had done the day before, she scrubbed his skin and washed his hair as if bathing a toddler. He whined when his mother gave him the very same clothes that Mrs. Arkwright had given him, reminding her that she'd said it doesn't matter what they wear. And how do you think William will feel if he gets on the bus wearing his dress and you're not wearing yours? His mother asked. Andrew claimed that William won't be wearing a dress, but he couldn't be sure. At 7:30 sharp, a minibus pulled up outside Andrew's house bearing the St. Felicity's school crest on its doors. He wanted the world to open up and swallow him whole as he approached it. A handful of kids are on board, staring through the windows at him. It's bad enough having to wear a dress, but his mother has added to his sense of shame by tying his hair into two high bunches that bounce around his ears. The door slides open and he climbs inside, briefly glancing at the faces before taking a vacant seat. One of the girls smiled at him and asked, "First day?" Andrew gulped and nodded, but on hearing her speak, he realized that she wasn't a girl at all. The van pulled away. His mother waved, but he didn't wave back. He kept his head down as best he could whilst the handful of other kids chatted. Andrew felt completely out of place in his white pumps, knee socks and dress, whilst the others wear black Mary Jane style shoes, burgundy tights, blue plaid pinafore dresses over a white shirt and tie with a burgundy school blazer. Initially he presumed the minibus was full of girls, then he quickly realized some boys were on board too. But soon enough he discovers that they're all boys. Those with hair long enough for plaits, ponytails or bunches wear them tied with white or burgundy ribbons. Those with short hair wear clips bearing either white or burgundy bows. The minibus draws to a halt. A boy wearing the same uniform trots toward it. The door slides open and he climbs inside, greeting his classmates before looking at Andrew and saying, "Another new boy." Andrew gulps and nods. The boy asked if he's been excluded or suspended. "Suspended," Andrew meekly replied. "How long for?" 2 weeks. "That's not so bad," the boy says. "By the time you've got used to it you'll be back at your old school," he claimed, before asking which school he normally goes to. "Cromwell Road," Andrew replied. He's asked why he got suspended. "Nicking off," he replied. "Me and my mate William." "Oh," the boy replied. "Is he coming to St. Flicks too?" "Yeah," Andrew replied. The minibus trundled through the residential streets and eventually drew up outside William's house. But rather than William walking towards the minibus, it was his mother. She spoke to the driver before opening the sliding door. "Do you know where he's got to, Andrew?" she asked. "No," Andrew replied. "You sure? You didn't arrange to leave early and meet up somewhere?" "No, honestly, Mrs. Dowson." "Well, if you can think of where he might have gone, please say something." "I will," Andrew said, although he wasn't sure he'd grass on his pal. "Okay," William's mother replied. "Your hair looks cute," she said, before sliding the door shut. It's hard to imagine, but Andrew had almost forgotten what his mother had done with his hair. He hung his head and his bunches flopped forwards, brushing his ears. The minibus continued its journey, picking up a few more boys, and before long, drove through the gates of St. Felicity's School for Girls. The kids alighted, and since Andrew is the only one not in uniform, the awaiting teacher knew he was one of the new boys. The driver spoke to the teacher and the teacher grilled Andrew as to where William may have gone. "Anywhere really," Andrew claimed, listing the town centre, the arcade, the canal tow path, the cops on Hunter's Hill. A few minutes later, the minibus driver exited the school building with a group of around 8 or 10 schoolgirls. "Right, girls. The boy we're looking for is called William Dowson, 13 years of age, of 73 Routledge Avenue. His mother said he'll most likely be wearing a green parka jacket, blue jeans, and brown monkey boots with yellow laces. And this boy will describe his face. The girls, all of whom must be 14 or 15 years old, surrounded Andrew. They towered over him as he sheepishly described William's hair color, style, and facial features. "Is he taller or shorter than you?" they asked. A bit taller," Andrew replied. "Thin or stocky?" Neither. "About the same as me," Andrew told them. The girls climbed in the back of the minibus whilst two teachers sat in the front. As the door slid shut, Andrew was certain one of them said something like, "I love going on a boy hunt." The one remaining teacher looked Andrew up and down before assuring him they'd find his friend. "Come on, let's get you settled in," she said. "Have you got your sizes?" Yes, miss," Andrew humbly replied before following the teacher inside. He glanced back towards the minibus as it pulled out onto the street. First, the minibus drove up to the estate on which William lives with his parents. All inside kept their eyes peeled for someone fitting the description they'd been given. 3 of the girls got out to explore the alleys and snickets whilst the minibus drove slowly around the neighboring streets. "I love it when the boys don't turn up," one of the girls said. "It's so much fun. Remember that one last year who we found hidden in a wheelie bin? He stunk to high heaven." "Oh God, yes," another replied. "It was December and we had to have all the windows in the minibus open when we took him back to school." The minibus picked the girls up and drove them to the other places that William might be hanging out. There was no sign of him on Hunter's Hill, nor in the arcade or town centre. But hopeful that his friend Andrew would have also absconded early, William hung out in their usual haunts on the off chance they'd meet up. He bought a packet of cigarettes from a kiosk and lifted a packet of opal fruits whilst the cashier's back was turned. He blagged a light of an old man who said he was too young to smoke, but gave him a light nonetheless. "Shut up, Grandad," was William's reply before walking away, sucking on a Regal king size. The girls drove all round town several times with no joy. By now it was 9:30, but they weren't disheartened. They'd much rather be out and about, hunting boys than stuck in class. The minibus was parked and everyone got out. They separated into 4 groups of 3 and went in opposite directions, sweeping a quadrant of the inner city each. Meanwhile, William was holed up in a run-down cricket pavilion. But boredom and a desire to smoke another cigarette, which meant getting a light of someone, forced him to vacate the secluded hideout. He decided to saunter along the canal for 2 reasons. 1, not many people apart from those enjoying the futility of fishing, and 2, a fisherman would likely have some matches. He was right on both counts and soon found a light for his cigarette. The kindly man even gave him the remainder of his box of matches, which although almost empty, contained plenty for his remaining cigarettes. "You skipping school, son?" the man asked. "None of your business, mister," William spat before walking off. "No need to be like that," the man said. A short while later, 3 of the girls from St. Flicks were searching the towpath and passed the very same man. "Aren't you girls supposed to be in school?" he said as they neared him. "Yes, but one of our boys has gone missing and we're trying to find him. There was a boy about your age not 10 minutes ago." "Cheeky little sod." "What did he look like?" "A cheeky little sod," the man replied, before describing a green parka jacket, blue jeans, and long hair. "You know how boys have it these days. Haggin on their shoulders. Sounds like him." "Which way did he go?" "That way, about 10 minutes since." "Great, thanks mister," the girls said before briskly walking in the same direction. They got as far as the next bridge and didn't know whether to continue on the towpath or take the bridge and follow the road, but which way? Towards or away from town? "We might be able to see more from the bridge," one suggested. "Can you see anything?" "Not really," she said, scanning the landscape. "What about the old cricket ground?" she said as the others joined her on the bridge. "It's gonna be a housing estate soon. Worth a try, but we'd better meet up with the others first." The three girls headed back to the minibus where the others were waiting. "Any luck?" one of the teachers asked. They told him about the man fishing who'd seen a boy fitting the description, and suggested checking the old cricket ground. "We may as well," the teacher replied as they all climbed inside. The cricket ground has two main entrances, one on Hinckley Street and the other from the park. He dropped 5 of the girls off at the park whilst the rest drove round to the other entrance. Meanwhile, William is feeling very smug. He's relatively cozy in the crumbling old pavilion, enjoying another cigarette and munching on opal fruits. He knows he's going to be in big trouble when he does go home, but for now, he feels as free as a bird. His only disappointment is that Andrew isn't with him. He peers out of the dusty window but can't see much. He spits on it and wipes it with his sleeve, but most of the grime is on the outside. He peers through it anyway, looking this way and that. There's nothing but the old cricket field, strewn with fallen leaves, dead weeds and a rotten old sight screen on either side. Then, the sound of voices grabs his attention. They're not close and could be coming from the nearby park. He selects a different window, one that gives him a better view of the park entrance. He spies 2 girls, climbing through the broken fence. Schoolgirls judging by their clothing, but it's a uniform he doesn't recognize. They'll just be passing through. William says to himself before slowly drawing on his cigarette and feeling like a character from a movie or TV drama. He feels relaxed, smug even. He has no idea that the girls from St. Felicity's are looking for him, and a combination of cheek, ego, and ignorance prompts him to open the door to the pavilion and greet the approaching girls. He stands casually in the doorway, looking at them whilst toking on his cigarette. The girls are close but out of earshot. "Well, that's gotta be him," one says to the other. "What do you reckon? Fight or flirt?" "Flirt," the other replied. "Hiya," she hollers to William. "DYA live here?" "Nah. Just haggin' out," he replied, taking a final long drag on his cigarette and flicking it away. "You got any more fags?" "Maybe." William replied. "What you gonna do to get one?" he asked, descending the few wooden steps and removing the pack from his pocket. "Dunno." "What you gonna do to stop us from just taking them?" they replied as they drew to a halt. "You wouldn't do that, girls," William replied. He's beginning to feel nervous since the 2 girls are a good few inches taller than him and they are more than a little intimidating. "Well, you don't look old enough to smoke. And we're concerned for your health." "Hey, don't do that," William said as one of the girls plucked the entire pack from his hand. "GISM back," he demanded. The girl held the pack high above her head. William reached for it but wasn't quite tall enough. "Not as big as you think you are you? Little boy," she said. "Shouldn't you be in school?" "None of your business." William spat as he jumped and still failed to grab his pack of fags. Unbeknown to William, 3 other girls had crept around the back of the pavilion and were approaching from behind. "Actually, William." "It is William, isn't it?" she asked. "It is our business," she said. "We're missing class because you're skipping school, and it's our job to find you and take you in." "Not on your Nelly," William retorted before turning to run, only to discover 3 more girls wearing identical uniforms stood with arms folded and a serious expression on their faces. "Oh my!" William yelps, before darting across the old cricket ground towards Hinckley Street. The girls give chase and are gaining ground. William vaults over the gate but not very well and ends up tumbling to the ground on the other side. He leaps to his feet, glancing behind to the 5 girls giving chase. They climb the gate more cautiously than he and he gains some distance. "Ha ha," he laughs, running backwards and still gaining ground. "You gotta do better than that," he hollers, before turning forwards again and running straight into another group of girls. "Jesus, where did you?" They stop him in his tracks, grabbing his arms. "Get off," he yells as he struggles to free himself. "Let me go," he says as they put him on his knees. One of the 2 teachers steps forward. William Dowson, I presume. Who wants to know? William angrily retorted. Get these bitches off me. That's no way to address your new schoolmates, William, the teacher says as the girls giving chase catch up. You all okay? He asked. Oh yes. We love a good boy hunt, sir, one of the girls replied. He was smoking, sir, another said, handing the packet of cigarettes to the teacher. You know these things are bad for you, the teacher said as he put the pack in his pocket. Damn you. William spat. Put him in the bus, the teacher said. And keep hold of him, he added. William shouted a string of obscenities as the girls bundled him into the minibus. Arg Jesus, he yelped when one smacked him one. The punch calmed his struggle as he instinctively curled himself. Can we debag him, sir? One of the girls asked. What do you reckon? The male teacher asked his female colleague. She turned to the girls and looked down on the boy, pressed against the floor, flailing as best he could. Yeah. Strip him, but don't hit him unless you have to, she said. Thanks, miss, the girls giggled before beginning to unceremoniously remove the boy's clothes. First his monkey boots, then his socks. He'd managed to struggle himself out of his parka jacket on his way into the van. By the time they'd peeled his jumper from him, his jeans were around his knees. He could do nothing but shout obscenities as his clothes were ripped from him, and it was only when he was completely naked that he finally quietened down. The girls bundled him up from the floor onto a bench seat and put him between two of them. His hands cupped his private parts and his face bore an expression of utter terror. Meanwhile at St. Felicity's School for Girls, it's morning break and the pupils filter from their classrooms into the enclosed schoolyard. Andrew's had an hour or two to get used to his uniform, and whilst everyone else wears the same, he feels completely out of place being one of seemingly a handful of boys in the whole school. He walks awkwardly in his black T-bar sandals with their 2-inch heels that strike the parquet flooring noisily with every step. Burgundy tights cover his legs up to his mid-thigh where his tartan pinafore dress takes over. His bunches bounce awkwardly around his ears as he's bustled along with the rest of the kids and eventually out into the yard. You, an adult voice hollers. New boy. Andrew turns to see one of the teachers looking at him and beckoning him toward her. Sheepishly, Andrew saunters over, scraping the occasional heel against the undulating surface. Yes, miss, he humbly says. Take this and play over there, she says, handing him a skipping rope and pointing to a corner of the yard. Andrew croaks as he hesitantly takes hold of the skipping rope. I can't. I don't know how to. You'll learn, she sternly says. Just follow the others. With his head hung low, Andrew does as he's told and goes to the corner of the schoolyard where a handful of other kids are skipping. Some were on the minibus and, like him, are boys in a girls' school. A trio of busty prefects watch over them. Don't just stand there, boy, one says to Andrew, prompting him to join in. I can't do it, he claimed. Try, she barked. Andrew observed the others and followed suit. He held the wooden grips in each hand and hung the rope at the back of his ankles, before trying and failing numerous times to skip over the rope. His continued failure was almost as embarrassing as having the prefects snigger at his ineptitude, but neither of these are as embarrassing as the girl's school uniform he was given soon after arrival. The sound of a car horn is quickly followed by a loud whistle. Everyone stops what they are doing and a handful of teachers tell the children to move to one side of the schoolyard. The big iron gates are opened and the school's minibus slowly drives into the yard. Its sliding side door is opened and 2 girls get out. Then, in full view of the entire school, a very timid William is helped out. His hands cup and a host of cheers and jeers greet him. Looks like they've found your friend, one of the kids says to Andrew. He's escorted into the building and the minibus is reversed out of the yard. The gates are shut and one of the teachers yells, "Carry on." Andrew is dumbfounded with what he'd just witnessed. "Carry on," one of the prefects prompts. "You're not allowed to just stand around." Andrew replied, before continuing trying and failing to skip. I can't do it in these shoes, he claims. Everyone else can, the prefect retorts, drawing his attention to the other boys who are skipping in the same style of footwear. They've had more practice than me, Andrew claimed. Well, practice, the prefect barked. Don't just stand there looking gormless. Andrew hung his head before swinging the rope over and attempting to skip over it. But being unaccustomed to wearing shoes with heels, he daren't jump more than an inch or two. Within a couple of minutes, the school bell rings and brings great relief to Andrew. Everyone filters back inside. The boys who'd been skipping hand their ropes back to the teacher. I was the same on my first day, one of the boys said to Andrew as they walked 2 by 2 back to class. Didn't have a clue how to skip, he added. You'll soon get the hang of it. Not in these shoes, Andrew replied. Do we have to do that every break? Yeah. If it's not skipping, it's hopscotch, the boy replied. I presume that was your mate they brought in. Yeah. William, Andrew said. I can't believe they dragged him in like that. That's what happens if you try to skip a day at St. Flick's. Meanwhile, a tearful William is being confronted with his new school uniform. Having flat refused to don the knickers and training bra, for prefects, under the watchful eye of 2 teachers and the school nurse have bundled him onto a big vinyl-covered bench and hold his limbs steady. If you don't wear your knickers, William, I'll have to put you in this for the day, the nurse tells him, holding up a big terry nappy. And you'll be put I1 every day until you change your mind. So what's it going to be, she asked. William told her to get lost, so the nurse very casually began to fold the flat nappy, and as she began to shuffle it under him, he began to have second thoughts. Okay. I'll wear them, he said. Are you sure? The nurse asked. Because one more crossword from you, young man, and I will put you in a nappy. And believe me, you will use it. The nurse gave the girls a nod and they released him from their grip, but remained poised to grab him if need be. William sat up on the bench and placed his bare feet on the cold tiled floor. The underwear he was so keen to refuse doesn't seem so bad when the alternative is a nappy. He steps into the knickers and pulls them all the way up. He gulps and looks down at them. White cotton with a narrow band of baby pink elastic around the waist and leg holes. One of the prefects instructs him in the art of fastening a bra, and once it's won, she patronizingly says, that wasn't so hard, was it? He perches nervously on a plastic chair as he prepares to don the tights. He's instructed how to do it the easy way, but it's fiddly, shuffling them up his legs bit by bit. Next comes his blouse, plain white with plastic flower-shaped buttons up the front and short puffed sleeves. An occasional tear finds its way to his cheek, which he quickly wipes away with the back of his hand. The pinafore is an awkward garment. He steps into it and buttons the skirt at his waist, then fastens the bib to the back with 4 buttons on the front. An elasticated tie goes around his neck before he pushes his burgundy feet into a pair of black-heeled shoes. Everything is awkward and fiddly, from the buttons on his blouse to the buckles on his shoes. Once they are on, he begins to stand, but is told to remain seated. He felt that his sense of total and utter humiliation couldn't get any worse, but it does as one of the prefects tends to his hair, tying it in 2 high bunches and securing it with lengths of burgundy ribbon. Finally, he dons a burgundy blazer and is given a small leather shoulder bag before being taken to the school's head. Glad you finally decided to join us, William, the stern-looking lady says as he stands sheepishly in front of her desk. He's flanked by 2 prefects. It seems you gave us quite the runaround this morning, she added. We do not tolerate truancy at St. Felicity's, and if you do go AWOL, you can rest assured that you will be found and you will be brought back. Since today is your first day, I'll let this one pass. But should you try the same trick tomorrow or any other day, your suspension from Cromwell Road will be extended by 1 week, thus extending your stay here, she told him. Any other misdemeanors, such as spitting or swearing, being rude, obnoxious or disobedient, will result in a 1-day extension for each and every violation. Do you understand? William gulped. Yes, miss. Now, as you've probably noticed, This is a girls' school and whilst you're here, you'll be treated as such. William gulped again. We do the utmost to help our boys fit in, so whilst you're here, you'll answer to the name Wendy. What? Wendy, the headmistress repeated. It's vaguely similar to your real name so you can remember it, but a little more suitable for a pupil in a girls' school. William gulped. He nervously thumbed the strap of the bag that hangs from his shoulder. Inside is a spare pair of tights, a clean pair of knickers and a handkerchief. The prefects carry similar bags with their names neatly written behind a transparent plastic panel. The headmistress slides a rectangular slip of paper across her desk and prompts William to take it. He steps forward and picks it up. Wendy Dowson, 3C, is written in ink. 3C is his class, the name is also his. He reluctantly slips it into the slot on his little shoulder bag before letting it hang dankly on his hip. Janice, the headmistress, says to one of the prefects. Yes, miss. Thank you for your time. You may return to class. Yes, miss. Thank you, miss. Janice says before dropping a quick curtsy and leaving. Amanda, the headmistress, says to the remaining prefect. Yes, miss, she enthusiastically replied. Will you escort Wendy to class, and chaperone her for the remainder of the day? The headmistress asked. William grimaced as he was not only referred to as Wendy, but also as her. Amanda wasn't quite so enthusiastic the second time she said, yes, miss. You may go, the headmistress said. Thank you, miss. Amanda said before dropping a quick curtsy. William gulped. Amanda glared at him. The headmistress stared at him. William gulped again before muttering, yes, miss, and carefully and cautiously curtsying. At the moment, his humiliation was so great that he swore to himself that there's no way he's coming back here tomorrow. He'll run as far as London if he has to. He follows Amanda awkwardly along the corridor. Their two pairs of heels clack a syncopated rhythm on the hardwood floor. This place is worse than I thought, he grumbled. It's actually a very good school. The best in town. Amanda replied. Maybe if you're a girl, he groaned. So far as everyone's concerned, you are a girl. Wendy, she replied. I'm not. And my name's William, he retorted, adding, stupid cow, under his breath. Amanda drew him to a halt and looked him in the eye. Look. Wendy, she said. I don't want to chaperone you all day when I should be attending my own classes, but since I'm the one who's keeping count of your misdemeanors. So don't piss me off, Wendy. I alone could keep you here for twice as long as you should be. William gulped and hung his head. Sorry, he muttered. Since you're new, I'll let you off. But don't expect to get off scot-free if you call anyone else a stupid cow, especially a prefect. Amanda advised. She continued walking and William sheepishly followed. Amanda drew him to a halt outside a classroom and knocked on the door. Enter, a voice said. Amanda and William entered the class. This is the new boy, sir, Wendy Dowson. Amanda said as William hesitantly glanced at the faces that glared at him. About time, Wendy, the teacher said. Take a seat. He sat at a vacant double desk alongside Amanda, but struggled to concentrate on what was being said. All William can do is imagine just how ridiculous he must look, especially with his hair in a pair of cute girly bunches. The teacher prattled on about Edwardian Britain, throwing out occasional questions to his class. Half a dozen hands would go up and the teacher would select one to reply. She, or he, it's hard to tell, would stand before offering their answer, and before seating themselves, they'd always curtsy first. Some wore their hair in bunches, much like his own. Others had plaits or a high ponytail. A few had neither, but all wore either white or burgundy ribbons in their hair. Who can name a British Prime Minister from the Edwardian era? The teacher asked. You, Charlotte, he said after a number of hands went up. Charlotte stood up as the remaining hands went down. David Lloyd George, sir, she said, but it was clear to William that Charlotte is really a boy, probably call Charles. Wrong, the teacher bellowed. Charlotte curtsied awkwardly and Saturday. Anyone else? He asked. No one put their hand up. What about our new boy? He said, turning his gaze toward William. Any idea, Wendy? No, sir. William meekly replied. Stand when you speak. William hesitated, then stood. No, sir, he repeated. Can you name a political party that held office during the Edwardian era? William gulped and guessed. Conservative. Sir. Very good, the teacher replied. William began to sit but stopped himself, offering a quick yet clumsy curtsy first. The Conservative Party held office until 1905, the teacher continued. Meanwhile, Andrew is in a different class, but it's being run in much the same way. The pupils are attentive and obedient. They stand before they speak and curtsy before they sit, and just like William, Andrew is uncomfortable with the name he's been given. Alice, can you explain to the class what an equilateral triangle is? The name is doubly uncomfortable for Andrew, since it harks back to his dim and distant past when his big sister used to put him in a dress when babysitting him. She also used to call him Alice whenever he was dressed as a girl. Andrew's far too plain for such a pretty dress, she used to tell him when he protested. His sister is 7 years his elder and is almost 20 years old now. She moved away after leaving school to go to college and study one of the ologies. He can't help but wonder what she'd say if she could see him now. The lunch bell rings at 12 noon and class is dismissed. William is escorted to the refectory by Amanda, and it's here that he first sees Andrew. What happened this morning? Andrew asked. With his head hung low, William told his friend that he'd got up early, around 6 a.m. and snook out the house before his mum or dad were up and just hung out, trying to avoid people in general. I saw them bring you back at break time. Andrew informed him. William hung his head and blushed. So, what did you do? He asked. I half expected to meet up somewhere. Well, I couldn't sneak out. Mum was already up. Andrew replied. I had to wait for the minibus, he said, before claiming that he would have made a run for it, but Mum made me wear that dress again, so he shrugged and sighed. What's your name? Amanda asked Andrew. Andrew. Alice. Andrew humbly replied. And have you and Wendy been friends for long? She asked, adding Alice. Andrew gulped and nodded. Since junior school. Who are you? Andrew asked. My name's Amanda. I've got the unfortunate task of chaperoning Wendy today, she replied, sneering at the boy beside her. Don't you have one? William asked. What? A chaperone. Andrew shook his head. I don't really know what one is. Amanda explained, adding, clearly you've been obedient and compliant so far, Alice, and don't need a chaperone. Andrew gulped. He has been obedient and compliant. He'll do anything to ensure that his time in this dreadful school is as short as possible, but in doing so, he can't help but feel guilty. William shoots a dagger-like stare at Andrew. He's equally unimpressed with Andrew's obedience. After lunch, they're sent into the yard and as before, Andrew is given a skipping rope and sent to play with it. William is sent to a different area of the yard where he's told to partake in a game of hopscotch. I'm not playing hopscotch, he yelped. He was astonished that they'd even suggest such a thing. It's not optional, Wendy, the prefect that supervises the activity retorted. Amanda reminds him that disobedience can result in a one-day extension to his stay here. William points out that loads of other kids aren't playing hopscotch or skipping. They're girls. You're a boy, which means you have to do an activity when it's playtime. Amanda explained. Is it really worth an additional day for every time you don't play? She asked. Amanda had a point and William shyly joined in with the boys. He didn't really know how to play since it's always been a girls' game, but his biggest worry is trying to skip and hop in shoes he can barely walk in. Andrew's afternoon classes are history and geography, followed by another break in which he sort of gets the hang of skipping with a rope. William has maths and English and is sent to play hopscotch at break. The next time he and Andrew get changed to speak is on the minibus home, but the other boys wanted to know all about the events this morning, when the prefects went on a boy hunt. William added spice and colour to his version of events, making his evasion and eventual capture much more dramatic than it actually was. "Are you gonna do the same tomorrow?" Andrew asked. "Dunno. I'm tempted," William said. "I don't wanna wear this again, that's for sure." "Me neither, but I reckon it's better to just go along with it than risk being suspended for 3 or 4 weeks instead of just 2. Andrew wisely replied. "I hope I don't have to wear this again though," he said, referring to the dress slung over his forearm. The same dress that Mrs. Arkwright had given him the previous day, and the dress he'd worn this morning when he boarded the school minibus. "Amanda said we've got to keep our uniforms on when we're doing out homework," William told Andrew. "Are you gonna?" "Nah," William replied. "Not if I can help it anyway." One by one, they boys are dropped of outside their houses and eventually it's William's turn. Andrew watches through the minibus window as William walks toward his front door, wide open and occupied by his parents. Each wears a most disgruntled expression. When Andrew's dropped off, his mother Aslo waits at the door. "How was it?" she asked. "Horrible," he grumbled. "Your uniform's nice." "Very smart," his mother says as he enters. Meanwhile, William is arguing against having to keep his uniform on whilst he does his homework. "You're not in a position to argue, William," his mother tells him. Apparently, she has a daily feedback form which will be handed back to the Education Welfare Services. Every misdemeanor or disobedient act needs to be noted and they may result in his period of suspension being extended. "It's up to you, William. You can either wear your uniform for a couple of hours after school each evening, or wear it for God knows how many extra days in 2 weeks' time." William concedes and remains in his uniform until his homework is complete. When Andrew's mother tells him that he must remain in uniform, he doesn't put up a fight because he knows it's in his own interests not to put up a fight. He wants to spend as little time as possible attending St. Felicity's School for Girls. But when he tells his mother that he's going to his room, he can't help but argue his mother's reply. "I've decided to move you into your sister's old room." "But why?" Andrew whined. "Because under the circumstances, it's more appropriate," she tells him. "It's bad enough being a girl at school, I don't want to be one at home too." "You're not a girl, Andrew, you're a petticoated boy, and whilst you are a petticoated boy, you'll spend your time living and learning to act more like a girl." But nothing, Andrew. "If you tried harder to be a good boy rather than becoming a juvenile delinquent, we wouldn't have had to resort to this," his mother tells him. "Now go to your room if you must, and make sure you hang your dress up. I don't want to find it screwed up on the floor." Andrew stamped up to his sister's room and gulps at its overall pinkness. It could be argued that his sister moved out because her room hadn't been redecorated since she was about 7 or 8 years old. The wallpaper intrigued him when he was about 5 or 6 years old, but the more Andrew grew, the more it sickened him. All those cute bunnies, pixies, and princesses, they really don't appeal to any growing boy. It wouldn't be so bad if it was just the wallpaper. It's pretty much everything else too. There's pink butterflies on the lampshade and curtains and pink flower-shaped door and drawer knobs, even fluffy pink rug in the shape of a love heart. He opens the wardrobe and is faced with yet more pink, although many other colors make up the resplendent display of skirts, blouses, frocks and dresses. He finds a vacant hanger and put his dress on it, before hanging it away and quickly shutting the doors. Being a girl's bedroom, there's a big mirror on the back of the door and a smaller one on the dressing table. Whilst frowning at his reflection, Andrew tugs at his bunches and pulls the ribbons out, but his hair doesn't look much better. Since it's been tied up all day, there's a big kink in it which he tries to brush out with his sister's pink hair brush, and it's whilst he's doing this that his mother checks on him. Settling in, I see, she grinned. Andrew blushes and stops what he's doing. He must have looked like such a girl when she walked in. She asks him if he'd hung his dress away and he nodded. She asked if he'd started his homework yet. I'm just about to, he replied. I was just trying to brush these kinks out of my hair, he said. Tell you what, his mother said. Why don't we put your bunches back in and we'll wash the kinks out later in the bath, she said. She'd pretty much tied one bunch by the time she'd finished the sentence, so there was little point protesting. I might do my homework downstairs, Andrew suggested. It's too pink in here. Andrew took his books downstairs and laid them out on the dining table. What do you look like? His dad said, chuckling. Don't tease him, George, Andrew's mother said. And take no notice of your father, Andrew. I'm not teasing him, Andrew's father claimed. I was about to say how nice he looks. I've always said if his hair gets any longer it'll have to be put in bunches. Did William have his hair in bunches too? Andrew's mother asked. Eventually, Andrew replied, before telling his parents that William didn't get on the bus this morning, having vacated his home before his parents were up, and that about 10 prefects spent 2 hours looking for him. Silly boy, Andrew's mother sighed. I honestly don't know why you hang around with him. He's my friend, Andrew replied. He's a bad influence. After completing his homework, Andrew is told he can change out of his school uniform, and told to make sure he hangs it up properly. He hollers from the landing. My bedroom door's locked. No, it isn't, his mother shouts back. I mean, my old bedroom. His mother appears in the hallway. Your old room's out of bounds for the time being, she tells him. As well you know. But my clothes are in there. There's plenty in your room. But they're all girls' clothes, he frowned. I know, his mother replied. She gave him the option of finding himself something to wear, or her finding something for him. Andrew rummaged through the drawers and the best he could find was a pair of pale blue pants with white heart-shaped pockets on both front and back and a pale blue ribbed jumper. Other choices included a pair of dusty pink bell-bottom jeans, turquoise pedal pushers, some purple paisley pants and several pairs of girls' shorts. Plus all the skirts and frocks in the wardrobe, of course. Sheepishly, Andrew made his way downstairs. I had a feeling you'd choose pants, his mother said. At least you kept your bunches in, she added. Turn around. Let's have a proper look, she asked. Haven't you got a training bra on, she quizzed. No, Andrew meekly replied. Well, go and put one on, please. There's plenty in your underwear drawer. It's not my underwear drawer, he muttered as he tramped back up the stairs. It is for the time being, his mother stated. Meanwhile, William is glad to be back in boys' clothes. But he's still in his parents' bad books for absconding this morning. Andrew was on the minibus. But I guess his mother had the good sense to get him up and get him dressed before he had chance to do anything rash. William's mother said, before assuring that he won't have the same opportunity tomorrow morning. William hung his head, since the thought had crossed his mind several times. How did you get on those shoes anyway? His mother asked. You won't be used to heels, will you? They were horrible. And at dinner time and break, they made me play hopscotch. It's bad enough trying to walk in them, let alone hop and skip, he whined. I'm surprised I didn't twist my ankle. Well, I suppose playing a game like hopscotch will get you accustomed to them rather quickly, his mother replied. Did Andrew play hopscotch too? She asked. William shook his head and said that Andrew had to play skipping, with a rope. It's not fair that we have to play girly games when the actual girls can just do what they want. Well, you are boys in a girls' school, remember? They're just making sure you fit in, she said. Did Andrew get a girl's name too? Yeah. Alice. William almost growled. Oh, I bet he loves that. William's mother sniggered. It's better than Wendy. William whined. It'll help you fit in, his mother said. What classes have you got tomorrow? William shrugged. I dunno. Haven't you got a timetable? It's in that bag. Your handbag? William gulped and nodded. His mother stood up and got it from the back of the chair where he'd hung it on his arrival home. Does everyone have one? She asked as she rested the small leather bag on her lap. William nodded. His mother opened it and he began to blush when she listed the items inside: spare tights, clean knickers, and a hanky. Ah, here we are, she said, perusing the postcard's size chart. You've got a dance class tomorrow, she said, before listing the other classes: English, drama, history, maths, geography, domestic science and French. What's domestic science? He humbly asked. Cooking and cleaning and stuff like that. That's not science. Well, it's good to know. It's about time you started lifting a finger and helping around the house. William skewed his chin. His mother put the timetable back in his handbag and closed it. A wry smile swept her face as she read the name tag: Wendy Dowson, 3C. I might put your hair in plaits tomorrow, she suggested, pushing her fingers through his locks. Please don't, Mum. I thought you might prefer it to bunches. But if you want bunches again, that's fine. I don't want either. William whined. The following morning, Andrew is collected by the school minibus soon after 7:30 a.m. It winds through the residential side streets, collecting various boys, and eventually, it heads towards William's estate. Andrew wondered if William might have absconded again, but as the minibus pulls to a halt outside his house, the front door opens and William sheepishly steps out wearing black Mary Jane-style shoes and burgundy tights, a tartan pinafore dress and a burgundy blazer. His head is hung low and his hair is tied in a pair of French plaits tied with burgundy ribbons in bows on his shoulders. You the kid who tried to nick off yesterday? One of the boys asked as William climbed into the minibus. Yeah. William said as the door slid shut behind him. Who are you? Sandra, the boy replied. It's really Alexander, but, he shrugged. Other boys on the bus were called Stephanie, Stephen, Penelope, Peter, Andrea, Andrew, Carla, Carl, Emily, Lee, Christina, Christopher, Jennifer, Jonathan, Jane, James, Tiffany, Timothy, Michelle, Michael, and Mary, Mark. Several of them claimed to have done much the same as William when they were first sent to St. Felicity's. Jennifer managed 3 days since he'd fled to his father's house in Rutland, whilst Tiffany's attempt lasted a mere 10 minutes. The boys were told to be silent. William peered out of the window. Andrew sat beside him and looked at William's hair, tied in 2 plaits running from behind his fringe to his neck where 2 burgundy ribbons are tied in bows. Did your mum do your hair? Andrew asked. Well, I didn't do it myself. William sarcastically retorted. It's better than my bunches. Andrew frowned. Mum made me wear them all evening, he moaned. She's even moved me into my sister's old room and I've got to wear her old clothes. All the time. Well. For the next 2 weeks. Andrew frowned. That's a bit harsh. William said. Andrew nodded. I had to wear my uniform until my homework was done, but at least I could wear my own clothes after that. William explained. This didn't seem fair to Andrew. He didn't try to skip school like William did, but is the one who's got to spend the next couple of weeks going to a girls' school, sleeping in a girl's bedroom and wearing nothing but girls' clothes. The minibus pulled into the schoolyard and the boys alighted. They'd been put into separate classes, so went their separate ways after entering the building. Yet again at playtime, Andrew was given a skipping rope and William was sent to play hopscotch. He wasn't quite so bashful today since he actually enjoyed playing the game, not that he'd admit that to many people. Andrew, on the other hand, was still struggling with the skipping rope. He could achieve 3 or 4 consecutive skips, but no more than that. His problem is that no sooner he gets into the rhythm, he can't help but think what he looks like, heels clacking, skirt swishing, and bunches bouncing. Then it all goes to pot. He'd like to try a different playtime activity, but the prefects in charge tell him that he's got to master the skipping rope first. All girls should be able to skip, Alice, they tell him, before suggesting he practice at home too. Andrew and William sit opposite one another at lunchtime. Andrew moans about his difficult playground activity and claims that he'd rather play hopscotch than skipping. Hopscotch is okay, William sheepishly confessed. At least there's a bit more to it than just jumping about a bit. I wouldn't know. Andrew frowned. The prefect said I've got to stay with the skipping group till I can do it properly. After eating their lunch, they filter out into the schoolyard where Andrew is sent to skip whilst William plays hopscotch. In the afternoon they have a PE class and play netball for the first time ever. At their old school only the girls played netball, but here the boys play too. They wear really short knife-pleated PE skirts, gym knickers, a polo shirt and thick knee socks, all in burgundy. For Andrew and William, it's a humbling kit to wear, but everyone else wears the same so they don't feel too out of place. It is a bit chilly though, not having tights to give them some protection against the chilly October air. Their PE kits were embarrassing to wear, but come Thursday and the hour-long dance class, they discovered a whole new level of embarrassing attire: baby pink dance tights and a burgundy camisole leotard. Baby pink ballet shoes and short burgundy skirt that's almost completely see-through. Their hair is scraped back into a tight bun and their fringes held off their face with numerous hair slides. They also have a little pink wrap cardigan and some woolly leg warmers to wear until they've warmed up. The class began with the 5 positions of classical ballet, which involved standing with their arms and feet in various specific positions, over and over again. It was slow and tiresome. The teacher plonked on the piano, calling out the positions, reminding the children to concentrate and to move on the beat. This yawnfest was followed by something that resembled actual dancing. Simple routines that involved steps, turns and little jumps. It was marginally more interesting than the 5 positions, but the classical piano music they had to dance along to was dire. Toward the end of the class, the teacher said it was time to have some fun. She opened the lid of a Dansette record player and placed a disc on the turntable. Half of the kids cheered when the opening bars of the Sweets blockbuster blasted out and everyone began jumping about. This was followed by another cracking tune, Can the Can by Suzi Quatro. Afterwards, the dance teacher approached the new boys and asked if they'd enjoyed themselves. They were non-committal but did admit to enjoying dancing to the Sweet and Suzi Quatro at the end of the class. Good, the teacher smiled, handing each of them a small pamphlet. Learning and understanding the basics of ballet means dancing to pop music is much more fun, she told them, before suggesting they practice the basic positions at home. After school, Andrew's mother excitedly asked how his dance class went. Really boring, he whined. Is that your kit? His mother asked, referring to the drawstring bag hanging from his shoulder. Andrew gulped and nodded. His mother took it from him and had a look. Oh lovely, she grinned. I can't wait to see it on. I brought it home to wash, not to wear. Andrew muttered as his mother opened the pamphlet he'd been given. It says you should practice for 20 to 30 minutes each day here, his mother informed him. Yeah, but it doesn't say I have to wear that, Andrew claimed as his mother folded the leotard and tights. It doesn't say you shouldn't either, his mother replied. You can practice on the landing, using the banister as a bar, she added. Of course Andrew protests, but his mother tells him that whilst he's attending St. Felicity's, he'll do what's expected whether he likes it or not. Otherwise you'll find yourself there for much longer than a fortnight. Andrew hung his head and stuck out his lip. It's not fair, he grumbled. Oh, it's entirely fair, Andrew. You brought this on yourself, remember? If you hadn't been skipping school you would have ended up at St. Felicity's, she reminded him. Have you got much homework to do? She asked. A bit, he replied. Well, I suggest you get on with it, his mother replied. I'll go and choose you a dress for when you've finished, she added. Can't I choose for myself? He asked. You wore what you wanted last night. Tonight it's my turn, she retorted. William doesn't have to wear girls' clothes all the time. Andrew whined. Well, that's up to his parents. Andrew's mother retorted. I'd guess if William had a sister he'd be in much the same boat as you are, she reckoned. Now let me rette your bunches, she said. They're lopsided. Meanwhile, William's mother is asking how his school day was. Okay, I guess, he hesitantly replied. I'll never get used to having to answer to Wendy though, he sighed. His mother smiled. It's not a name I'd have chosen for you, she said as she ran her fingers through his wavy hair. I'd have called you Emily or Claire or something. There is a boy called Emily. His real name's Lee. William told her. And how's Andrew getting on being Alice? She asked. He hates it. But he has to wear girls' clothes all the time. Even at night he has to wear a nightie. Well, he's not the only boy at St. Flick's who's petticoated all the time, his mother replied. You should think yourself lucky that you're only being petticoated during school time. And after school, he stated. His mother informed him that school time isn't over until he's completed his homework. He moaned, before telling his mother that even the dance teacher gave them some homework. Really? His mother quizzed. What? She asked. William removed the pamphlet from his handbag and handed it to her. I see, she said as she perused it. Half an hour every day you don't have a dance class. I wonder if that includes weekends too. I hope not. William gulped. His mother asked which days he does have a dance class. Monday and Thursday, he replied. Well, I suppose Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday should be enough, she replied. I won't have to wear my dance kit, will I? He sheepishly asked. It says here that you should, his mother replied, handing the pamphlet back to him. The next morning, William climbed into the minibus and sat next to Andrew. He said that he couldn't wait for tomorrow since that means 2 whole days of not having to dress like a girl. It's all right for some. Andrew glumly replied. The next time I'll be allowed to wear boys' clothes is a week on Monday when we're allowed to go back to Cromwell Road. Yeah. It's only another week and a bit. William replied. After a brief pause, he added. It's weird though. What? William dropped his eyes to his skirted lap and stockinged legs. I've kinda got used to wearing this, he confessed. Me too. Andrew admitted. But compared to some of the things my mum makes me wear. This is the best of a bad bunch, he said as he smoothed his skirt over his lap. The tights can get a bit itchy though, he added. William agreed. The only classes Andrew and William shared were their PE and dance classes. The rest of the time, they were separated and only really saw one another during lunchtime. Having endured 4 days at St. Felicity's School for Girls, Andrew has finally mastered skipping with a rope. During his morning break, the prefects who supervise the playtime activities tell Andrew that he'll be playing hopscotch the following week. Andrew tells William this over lunch and is looking forward to being able to spend more time with his friend. However, William has been told that he'll be skipping the following week. Their final class of the week was PE and once again they donned their burgundy knee socks, short pleated PE skirts, big burgundy gym knickers and matching polo shorts. God, it's freezing. Andrew whined as they filtered out in the yard. A brisk autumn breeze whipped around their exposed legs. At least we're playing netball and not rugby. William commented, that being the sport they'd be participating in at Cromwell Road. Rugby is something they both detest with a passion, the thuggery, the muddy pitch, the unpredictable ball and the dreaded scrum. Netball may not be ideal but it's the better of the two, he feels. After PE, both Andrew and William are summoned to the head teacher's office. How have you both got on this week? She asked. Okay, miss, they replied in unison, although this was a long way from the truth. They've both endured possibly the worst week of their life, having to attend a girls' school, wear the girls' uniform and answer to girls' names. The head teacher informs them that their reports have come back mostly positive, and adds that she hopes their parents' reports will be much the same. I trust you've both been doing your homework in uniform. Yes, miss, they replied. Good, she said. Apart from an early hiccup. Wendy. You both seem to have buckled down and tried your best to fit in with the rest of our girls. Keep that up for the remainder of your suspension from Cromwell Road and you'll be back there soon enough, she explained, adding, if that's what you want. Yes, miss, they replied. Good, she replied. You may go. Thank you, miss, they reply, dropping a well-rehearsed curtsy before exiting her office. As they walk the halls, their heels clack noisily on the parquet floor. Andrew curses himself for not being more honest and telling the head teacher that it's been an awful week. It's horrible wearing heels and itchy tights. Having to wear bunches and answer to Alice. I think she knows that already. William replied. The point of sending us here is that we'll hate it. Yeah, I know. Andrew said. The annoying thing is. Hang on, he said, stopping to hitch up his tights. I've only been here a week and I'm getting used to it. Yeah, me too. William gulped. And I don't have the excuse of having to wear girls' clothes at home, he said. You doing out tomorrow? Dressing as a girl, I guess. Andrew grumbled. Which means I won't be going anywhere, he added. I might come round if that's okay. William suggested. I'd rather you didn't. Andrew replied, stating his reasoning. William pointed out the obvious flaw in his logic, that being he dresses as a girl at school anyway, so it'll be no surprise to see him dressed as a girl at home. Yeah, but Mum makes me wear really girly dresses. And makeup too. I don't mind. William replied. And I won't tell anyone if that's what you're worried about. They boarded the minibus and were soon delivered to their respective homes. William's mother asked if he'd enjoyed his day at school. William dryly claimed that he'd merely endured it. Have you any plans for the weekend? His mother asked. Well, I was gonna go round to Andrew's tomorrow, but he didn't seem very keen. William replied. Why not? His mother quizzed. You haven't fallen out, have you? No. William replied, before explaining about Andrew having to wear girls' clothes all the time at home too. I dunno why he's embarrassed. We both dress as girls all day at St. Flick's. You'd think he'd be used to it by now, his mother replied. Have you got much homework? A bit. William replied. It shouldn't take me long. Don't forget you've got to practice your ballet too, his mother reminded him. William groaned. He had forgotten about that. Early on Saturday afternoon, William rides round to Andrew's house and knocks on the door. Hello, Mrs. Smith. Is Andrew in? He is, William, come in. Andrew's mother says. Andrew, she hollers. William's here to see you, she shouts. She looks William up and down, monkey boots, jeans, jumper and a parka jacket. Your hair's developed a nice wave, she says. Yeah. William bashfully replied, shyly thumbing the ends of his hair. Mum puts it in plaits for school. Yes, Andrew said. I think he'd rather have plaits too, but I like him in bunches. She replied. William, she hollered again. I think he's being a bit shy because I put his hair in rags last night, she told him. William adopted a rather perplexed expression, clearly not knowing what hair rags are or do. They make it nice and curly. Andrew's mother added. Alan, she hollered again. Ooh. William replied as Andrew finally emerged at the top of the stairs. Blimey, it really is curly in it. William gasped as Andrew descended the stairs. Andrew was more worried about the dress his mother had made him wear today than how she'd styled his hair. A deep purple prairie-style dress with a white bib, bounded by a broad frilly trim, and its hem and cuffs are trimmed with white lace. On his feet is a pair of brown leather-heeled shoes and his legs are clad in a pair of white knitted tights. It's weird you being taller than me, William said when Andrew reached the hallway. His shoes have a 2-inch heel and his incredibly curly hair adds an additional inch or two to his overall height. His lips are painted in a pale pink shade of lipstick and his eyelashes are coated in thick black mascara. Doesn't he look nice? Andrew's mother gushed. Yeah. William replied. Why don't you boys sit in the parlor? Andrew's mother suggested. I'll fetch some refreshments. William followed Andrew to the parlor, a room filled with posh furniture, tacky ornaments, and vases filled with dried flowers. Unlike the sitting room, the parlor is seldom used. William perches on the sofa whilst Andrew sits on an armchair. He gulps before telling William in no uncertain terms that his dress was his mother's choice, not his. Yeah, I gathered that. William replied. She doesn't make you go out, does she? No. Thank God. Andrew replied. I do have some boyish stuff that I could go out in, but even that's a bit too girly, he frowned. As they walk the halls, their heels clack noisily on the parquet floor. Andrew curses himself for not being more honest and telling the head teacher that it's been an awful week. It's horrible wearing heels and itchy tights, having to wear bunches and answer to Alice. I think she knows that already. William replied. The point of sending us here is that we'll hate it. Yeah, I know. Andrew said. The annoying thing is, hang on, he said, stopping to hitch up his tights. I've only been here a week and I'm getting used to it. Yeah, me too. William gulped. And I don't have the excuse of having to wear girls' clothes at home, he said. You doing out tomorrow? Dressing as a girl, I guess. Andrew grumbled. Which means I won't be going anywhere, he added. I might come round if that's okay. William suggested. I'd rather you didn't. Andrew replied, stating his reasoning. William pointed out the obvious flaw in his logic, that being he dresses as a girl at school anyway, so it'll be no surprise to see him dressed as a girl at home. Yeah, but Mum makes me wear really girly dresses, and makeup too. I don't mind. William replied. And I won't tell anyone if that's what you're worried about. They boarded the minibus and were soon delivered to their respective homes. William's mother asked if he'd enjoyed his day at school. William dryly claimed that he'd merely endured it. Have you any plans for the weekend? His mother asked. Well, I was gonna go round to Andrew's tomorrow, but he didn't seem very keen. William replied. Why not? His mother quizzed. You haven't fallen out, have you? No. William replied, before explaining about Andrew having to wear girls' clothes all the time at home too. I dunno why he's embarrassed, we both dress as girls all day at St. Flick's. You'd think he'd be used to it by now, his mother replied. Have you got much homework? A bit. William replied. It shouldn't take me long. Don't forget you've got to practice your ballet too, his mother reminded him. William groaned. He had forgotten about that. Early on Saturday afternoon, William rides round to Andrew's house and knocks on the door. Hello, Mrs. Smith. Is Andrew in? He is, William, come in. Andrew's mother says. Andrew, she hollers. William's here to see you, she shouts. She looks William up and down, monkey boots, jeans, jumper and a parka jacket. Your hair's developed a nice wave, she says. Yeah. William bashfully replied, shyly thumbing the ends of his hair. Mum puts it in plaits for school. Yes, Andrew said. I think he'd rather have plaits too, but I like him in bunches, she replied. William, she hollered again. I think he's being a bit shy because I put his hair in rags last night, she told him. William adopted a rather perplexed expression, clearly not knowing what hair rags are or do. They make it nice and curly. Andrew's mother added. Andrew, she hollered again. Ooh. William replied as Andrew finally emerged at the top of the stairs. Blimey, it really is curly in it. William gasped as Andrew descended the stairs. Andrew was more worried about the dress his mother had made him wear today than how she'd styled his hair. A deep purple prairie-style dress with a white bib, bounded by a broad frilly trim, and its hem and cuffs are trimmed with white lace. On his feet is a pair of brown leather-heeled shoes, and his legs are clad in a pair of white knitted tights. "It's weird you being taller than me," William said when Andrew reached the hallway. His shoes have a 2-inch heel, and his incredibly curly hair adds an additional inch or two to his overall height. His lips are painted in a pale pink shade of lipstick, and his eyelashes are coated in thick black mascara. "Doesn't he look nice?" Andrew's mother gushed. Yeah," William replied. "Why don't you boys sit in the parlor?" Andrew's mother suggested. "I'll fetch some refreshments." William followed Andrew to the parlor, a room filled with posh furniture, tacky ornaments, and vases filled with dried flowers. Unlike the sitting room, the parlor is seldom used. William perches on the sofa whilst Andrew sits on an armchair. He gulps before telling William in no uncertain terms that his dress was his mother's choice, not his. "Yeah, I gathered that," William replied. "She doesn't make you go out, does she?" "No, thank God," Andrew replied. "I do have some boyish stuff that I could go out in, but even that's a bit too girly," he frowned. Andrew's mother entered with a tray in hand. She set it on the coffee table and placed a glass of cordial in front of William, and another in front of Andrew. A plate bearing 4 chocolate digestives sat between them. "Thanks, Mrs. Smith," William said. "You're welcome, William," Andrew's mother replied. "How are you enjoying your new school?" William cautiously began. "Apart from the uniform, it's okay, I guess. So long as the uniform keeps you inside the school gates, where you belong, it's doing its job, don't you think?" Andrew's mother replied. "Yeah, I guess," William humbly replied. Andrew's mother left them alone. William cast his eyes around the uninspiring parlor and asked Andrew what his new bedroom is like. "Horrid." Andrew frowned. "And it's my sister's room, not mine. Can I see it?" "I'd rather not," Andrew hesitantly replied. "It can't be as bad as you described," William claimed. Andrew assured him it was, and to prove it, he took his friend up to his new room. "Blimey," William gasped. "Your sister's what, 20?" he asked. Andrew nodded. "This is like a little girl's room," William exclaimed. "It hasn't been decorated since she was about 7. Andrew stated. "No wonder she moved out as soon as she left school," he added. "You've got loads of shoes," William noted, seeing about 12 pairs all lined up by the skirting board. "My sister has, or had," Andrew replied. "Why Mum didn't get rid as she grew out of them I'll never know," he said. "Same with all her old clothes," he added, opening the wardrobe to reveal a resplendent display of skirts, frocks and blouses. "Blimey, Andrew, how do you cope?" Andrew sighed and said, "By staying indoors. It's only for another week, I hope." "Yeah, I guess," William replied. He tore his eyes from the clothes in the wardrobe and looked Andrew up and down again. "I guess looking at half of those, that one's not so bad after all," he said. "I like the color." Andrew looked down at his frock and screwed his nose up. "I'd rather listen to Deep Purple than wear it," he dryly retorted. William chuckled and cast his eyes around the ultra-girly bedroom. Framed pictures of cute bears and Edwardian ladies hung from the walls. Posters of David Cassidy, David Essex, and David Bowie are blue-tacked above the bed. The shelves are filled with Cindy dolls, teddy bears, books, games and various toys, all of which once belonged to his sister. William rummaged through a pile of comics, Bunty, Ginty, Mandy, and Twinkle. "Do you read these?" he asked. "No." William spat. "They're my sister's," he stated. Shall we go back down, he said as William sat on the bed and picked up a floppy rag doll that lay on his pillow. I hate it in here. Yeah, I guess, William said as he put the rag doll back where it belonged. He tried to imagine what it must be like, going to sleep and waking up in such girly surroundings, day in, day out. They returned to the parlor and listened to the radio for a while. Suzi Quatro's Devil Gate Drive was played, which reminded them of Thursday's dance class. Both agreed that it would have been better if they'd danced to pop music for the whole class rather than just at the end. Did you have to practice the ballet positions last night? William asked. Andrew nodded and moaned about having to wear the pink tights and burgundy leotard whilst he did it. Yes, so did I, William replied.